Here in Los Fresnos, Texas. And as a crow flies, if you're wanting to know where that is, as a crow flies, we're about 15 minutes from the border here in deep South Texas. Thanks for allowing me to spend some time with you here on this channel every week, and I thank you for allowing me to be in your life even today. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. I hope that you're having a great Christmas season. We're 1 week away from Christmas Eve, and I don't know what you've got planned there on the Nature Coast, but here we're planning for a Christmas Eve service that we have here at our city park, and it's always a great occasion, and we tell the real Christmas story. It's always really good to do that in public with a bunch of brothers and sisters in Christ from other churches as well. So anyway, how are you doing with this Christmas season? Are you excited? Are you can't wait for Christmas to be here? Are you hopeful? Or are you one of those persons that can't wait for the whole thing to be over? Like December 26th? What is it that you want to feel? I always like to ask this question. What is it that you want to feel on December 26th? A sense of peace, a sense of accomplishment, or something else? Or are you planning on, like every year, it being a big letdown? It's Christmas anticlimactic because of all the activities that are leading up to it. There's all sorts of feelings and emotions that we have every year that day after Christmas. I thought it'd be good for us, though, to think about Advent. I've been thinking about Advent for a few weeks now, even in my own personal devotions. Because Advent it really isn't something that I grew up with. It's something that I've come to like, I've come to observe, I've come to participate in. But just think about Advent and what it means to me personally, what it means for our church here at the table, what it could mean for you. One of the things that is kind of misunderstood or maybe even misapplied about Advent is that a lot of times when you see Advent talked about on the internet or on social media or in articles, some of the, especially in what I call pop evangelicalism, a lot of Advent is about waiting for Christmas. Like we're waiting for Christmas to show up. That's a little bit about Advent, but that's not the whole story. Advent isn't simply waiting for Christmas Day. It's not simply waiting for the baby Jesus to be born. There's a little bit of that there. But there's another way of thinking about Advent, and I'm bringing it up because I think it's helpful for us when we think about how a lot of us, as far as Christmas goes, we're not all that excited. A lot of us. And there are many that don't look forward to this season. And so if we think about Advent the right way, or if we think about Advent in a different way, maybe that'll help a lot of us who struggle through this particular period of the year. I think it'd be helpful for us if we think about the way that Advent has been taught and thought about historically in the church. Typically, Advent has three aspects to it, or there was three ways of thinking about Advent. First is the one that we're familiar with. It's the first coming of Jesus, the first Advent, his birth in the manger in Bethlehem on the first Christmas day. But then, historically, Advent season has been a time of thinking about and looking forward to the next Advent, the second Advent, the second coming of Jesus, and then we're watching and we're waiting for that Advent. And if you look at a lot of the Bible lessons and the scriptures that are being highlighted throughout church history for this particular time of season, or the sermons that are even preached, a lot of it has to do with what we're anticipating, what we're expecting, and what we're waiting and watching for in terms of Jesus' second coming, and looking forward to that day when he shows up again, one final time. The final resurrection, that last day. And so that Advent has been watching and waiting for that second coming. And so we do wait for that day. We wait for it, for that day, because there's going to be no pain, no more suffering. And so it's helpful for us to think about Advent in that way, especially through this time. Yes, we think about what's coming in the birth of Jesus, but the birth of Jesus actually ushered in the day of the Lord. It ushered in the anticipation of the second Advent. The first coming was always about making sure, and again, we talked about this at our own church on Sunday, Jesus takes care of the sin problem. He comes in forgiveness, he comes in grace, he comes for us. And then the second coming, he will be coming for us again. And when he comes then, that's when we will have no more suffering, no more sorrow, no more pain. There's the new heavens and the new earth. And what's important about that, when we think about that in terms of Advent, that first Advent, yes, Jesus came, he took our sin problem, but we still live in the mess. We still live with sin. We still live with pain. We still live with the disease. We still live with war. We live with all sorts of bad stuff continually. There's a sense in which we're still in darkness in this waiting period. There's been a lot, there's all sorts of ways to think about this, what we call already not yet. But a lot of it's like that, the Saturday in between Christ's death and his resurrection. And some churches, in fact, St. Paul here in Harlingen, every year have a vigil on Saturday. And it's just this anticipation, this waiting, and this sense of just being here in the moment. This is what Advent is. And it's even kind of like it's not like another version of Lent, where we understand, yes, Christ has come. He has given us forgiveness. He has given us new life. The new creation has begun, but this new creation is still in our context in this fallen world. And so we watch and we wait in the midst of suffering, in the midst of sorrow, in the midst of pain. And we look forward to that day. And so we're reminded at Advent that things are not always going to be this way. And we're not always going to have this pain. We're not always going to have this suffering. We're not always going to have this sorrow. It's not always going to be this way. What we have today and what I see today and what I see out there and all this other stuff, you know what? Someday it's not going to be like this. It isn't. It really isn't. And I always say, we have no idea what life without sin, what life without pain, what life without sorrow looks like or feels like. We've never experienced that. But it's coming. Jesus promised that. So that's what we emphasize when we talk about Advent. Advent is, in light of the first coming, we're anticipating the second coming. We watch and we wait. We pray. We try to understand our circumstances in light of what's coming. But then there's a third aspect to Advent that I haven't talked about yet. But it helps us in the now and the not yet. It helps us right here and right now. And this is where I get really excited about this aspect of Advent. The third Advent that historically the church has emphasized is the advent of Jesus coming in word and sacrament. So he's come in his birth. He's coming in the final resurrection, the second coming of Jesus. But he comes weekly, or every time that we gather, every time we have word and sacrament, every time the word is proclaimed and the sacrament is delivered, Jesus comes to us, really, literally. It is his advent. So you need Jesus to come and give you comfort and rest in the already and not yet, in the midst of all the pain and all the suffering and all the sorrow. Well, I always say this at the table, I'll give you Jesus. That Jesus promises to be here. And well, I'm in his stead, but he gives himself. He comes to us in the midst of all that. He comes in grace, and he comes in forgiveness. He comes in peace. He comes with life. And he delivers the peace, he delivers the grace, he delivers the salvation for us every week in word and sacrament. Every week when we gather is an Advent. And so we highlight that, we emphasize that, we think about that during this Advent season. You see, the first Advent, the coming of the baby in the manger, that we are celebrating this Christmas season, that guarantees not just that final resurrection, and it does, but it guarantees Jesus coming to you in word and sacrament every time you're gathered around the word and sacrament, every Sunday when you gather at Nature Coast Church. That's Jesus' promise to you. That is his advent for you, especially this season, this holiday season. Isaiah writes this in anticipation. I keep coming back to this. This has been one passage that's been big to me this holiday season. Isaiah writes this in anticipation of the divine warrior who is coming in Isaiah 9. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord shines over you. Arise and shine, for your light has come. The glory of the Lord shines over you. I've been reading that quite a bit over the past 2 or 3 weeks. That's kind of become my theme verse for this season. That is the hope of the Advent season. No matter how you feel, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're experiencing, no matter your circumstances, your light has come. Your light hasn't just come. Jesus has come for you. This also says, the glory of the Lord shines over you. The glory of Jesus shines over you. You may not see it. It may not feel like it. This doesn't mitigate any of the suffering or the pain that we have, because I know I've seen it today. I've seen pain. I've seen suffering. I've seen sorrow today. It's not going to make it go away. But you know what gives us hope? You know what gives us comfort? You know what gives us rest in the midst of all this? The glory of Jesus is still shining over us all of the time. Never a moment that his glory is not shining over you and me. No matter what we've done, no matter what we're going through, his glory is over you, shining over you into your darkness. And we have darkness. I'm always amazed when I look at the text and look at the stories that we have in the biographies of Jesus of his first advent. It's not an accident. It's almost all at night. That's because the light's coming into the darkness, and the light's shining into the darkness. And that's speaking about who we are. It's coming into our darkness, coming to your darkness, my darkness. So the light has come. The glory of Jesus shines over you. And that is something that you can take to the bank. It's something that you're absolutely guaranteed this Advent season. That's our Rhythms of Grace for today. And again, I hope you, next Tuesday, I'm sure I won't be here because we'll be preparing for our Christmas Eve service at the city park. But maybe I will. I'll try and get something done maybe that day. But if I don't, hope you have a great Christmas season. Hope you have a great Advent season. And remember this holiday season, remember the light that has come for you. Jesus always, always has you. Have a good evening.